Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Live at the Legislature. With us today, we have Representative Mark Hashem, who is chairman of the House Agriculture Committee. He represents District 18, which is part of East Oahu from Ahaione to Neo Valley to Aina and Wailupe in those areas. Welcome, Representative. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, I represent East Honolulu. An easy way to remember it is, Kahala Mall
I know it.
on the east side, and that's my one border, and on the other side is Costco. So those are the two main points. That's the two ends of my district, from Kahala Mall to Costco.
Good shopping district.
Yes.
Well, you're also the chair of the House Ag Committee, and I wanted to ask you first about February being invasive species awareness month in Hawaii. How important is that to agriculture in Hawaii to keep invasive species out and protect our farmers?
Oh, it's extremely important. We have the number 2 crop that we have now is coffee at $50 million a year. And we have a new pest that came in just a couple of years ago. It's the coffee leaf rust. So it turns the leaf yellow and makes spots, and it decimated other coffee regions, just completely decimated the whole coffee production. And if that happens here, our number 2 crop might get wiped out. So the famous Kona coffee may no longer be. So.
Oh. Well, you in your committee, you heard House Bill 236 about pest control for, I believe, the coffee borer beetle and the leaf rust. What is that bill, and what is it going to do?
So we have another invasive species for coffee, which is the coffee CBB, coffee berry borer, the beetle that goes inside the coffee, and it basically eats up the inner core of the coffee and hollows it out. And so we have that program to try to eradicate or deal with that pest. And we just put the coffee leaf rust under that same program. So now I call it housekeeping, where the Department of Agriculture can use funds to deal with the berry borer and the leaf rust too. So
at the same time.
Yes. So it goes. It's so they can deal with both issues with the coffee.
What is our number 1 crop in Hawaii? You had mentioned it earlier. What is our number 1 crop?
It's no longer sugar. So, but most people have no clue. It's corn. Corn is at $100 million a year. So, and number 2 is coffee. Yeah. So 95% of all corn that's produced in the United States has a life cycle through Hawaii. And Hawaii is one of the best places in the world for agriculture research. So on the mainland, you have one growing cycle. You have the summer, maybe 2. You might start in the early spring, and you might have one towards the end of summer. But Hawaii, we have 3 growing cycles. So that's why they come here, they do the research, they run it through essentially 3 seasons in a year. And so we're very attractive for agriculture research in Hawaii.
I had no idea that corn was that, big a crop for our residents.
Yes, it used to be at 250 million. It was almost the size of our what is that? The media industry, the film industry. Oh. So with no subsidies, absolutely no subsidies.
Well, outside of agriculture, another issue you're very concerned with is tax reform. What are you thinking along tax reform, and what would you like to do?
Well, yes, I think one of the biggest issues that are facing the local residents now is we need to change our tax structure. And our tax structure was put in place way back 80 years ago when the Big Five was controlling Hawaii. So what Hawaii did, or what Big Five did, was push a lot of the responsibilities, which is usually in other jurisdictions that are county-based, onto the state. So we have a statewide education system. The state runs the jails, the prisons, and the courts. Other jurisdictions, a lot of times that's run by the counties. And by pushing that onto the state, or the state main source of income is income tax and general excise tax. So by pushing those responsibilities to the state, they could keep the property values really low. And the main people that owned land back in the day was the Big Five. So they kept their prices, their tax rate really extremely low. So fast forward 80 years, Hawaii has the lowest property tax rate in the nation. And oddly enough, now Big Five is gone, and most of the land is owned by offshore investors. So roughly 30% of all real estate in Hawaii is owned by non-residents. And we have the highest income tax. All the tax was shifted to the locals to subsidize Big Five. Well, Big Five's gone now, so the locals are essentially subsidizing the snowbirds for having their second home. So I think we need to shift the tax to make the non-residents pay their fair share.
Well, I see. So shifted from raising the property tax, but lowering the income tax at the same time. Is that correct?
Yes. I actually had a bill. I had two bills that tied together. It was essentially making income tax zero and shifting that burden to property tax. And the way you do get around this, the way you help the locals is you increase the homeowner exemption and the senior exemption, so that less puts on the burden on the local people, and it pushes more towards the snowbirds, the people that own second homes, the Zuckerbergs, the Oprah Winfreys, right? Michael Dell owns probably half of Kona, so
I hope that works. People could use that break, and I think that would bring in more money. We just have about 30 seconds left. In your district, there was some flooding in recent years. What's being done about that?
Yes, there was, in fact, a couple weeks ago, we had extreme flooding. This one lane floods about 3 feet, and it's actually a storm drain that backs up, and it's owned by the Department of Transportation. I thought we had the fix. We tried to fix it once, that didn't work, so we got to go back in and redo it again. So
that's works now, fixing that drain.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. This has been, we learned a lot today. So thank you very much, Representative, for being with us. And thank you all for joining us on Live at the Legislature.
Thank you.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record live at the legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.